Hello, hello, hello. My name is Robert. I am the recovery guy, and you have entered into The Fix.
Good afternoon, evening, good morning. This is Robert, the recovery guy, and this is a special podcast from the Saturday night speaker meeting at the South Davis Recovery Club. Relax, enjoy, and share. Have a great night. Thanks for listening.
Mark, alcoholic.
Hey, Mark.
Whew, all right, I gotta qualify a couple things first. As I was sitting there, I was thinking the biggest problem I have at the moment is this nostril hair that's tickling inside my right nostril. Literally, that's my biggest problem. And then I was sitting a little longer and I was thinking, okay, I just spent $20 for 3 frickin' tacos at Smoked Taco, and I could have spent $10 at Arby's to feel like shit just the same. And so I wasted some money on dinner. But you know what? I'm not hangry at the moment, so I had a little coffee, so I'm not even tired. And really, I have no problem in life at the moment. Everything is really cool. HALT is a big thing. I don't know if anyone's ever, or if everyone's heard of HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you find you're in any one of those, first eat, regardless of what the others are. Even if you're just really super tired, eat. I have found for myself that it settles the savage beast trying to break its way out. You know, that's a big deal. So I got sober September 27th, 1990. I was 2 years old. Not really, no. I was 21. I'll do the math for you. I'm like 42. And it's not true either. So I got arrested for drunk driving. In New York, they're called DWI, driving while intoxicated. And that was in 1989, December 3rd. And I had to go to drunk driving classes, and they asked me to tell my story. I told it in front of the class. Everyone's laughing. I sit down at my desk. The guy sitting next to me says, "Hey, you shouldn't have been so honest." I was like, whatever. So class is dismissed. We're all walking out. And, "Hey, Mark, can I see you?" I told the whole story, right? I didn't hold anything back. I should, if you know what, that was God working through me. That's all I could say. God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So I had to go to counseling after that. They mandated, which today would be called IOP, right? But it was group therapy and then one-on-one therapy. And we discussed addiction and our cases from court. And it was from there that I found out I had to go at AA. And I'm like, damn it, how much is that going to cost? Because everything cost me money up to that point, and I didn't really have a clue about AA. I literally went to a meeting like 4 years earlier. I was 16 years old, and I only enjoyed it because I got to sit with a bunch of old people drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. I thought, oh, this is cool, you know, I could do this. But had no interest in sobriety. Really, we were at the meeting, and afterward, we were going to go get fucked up. Didn't know what the meeting was about. That was the deal. Oh, this is recorded. Is that going to be all right? My
Sure, baby.
I have some linguistic abilities that came with me at birth in New York. So, you know, funny thing, Robert mentioned Billy. Billy got sober 6 years before me, but he got sober one town away from the town that I got sober in. And he knew my girlfriend in early sobriety because she went to the meetings he went to. But what a small world. And I heard him speak here maybe a month or two ago when we connected. That was really cool. All right, but back to this drunk driving thing. I did not want to get sober. I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was I wasn't going to drink and drive anymore. And my next door neighbor, Mark, got a DUI also. We call it DUI, driving while intoxicated. For your sake, it's DUI, alcohol. Right? Because that's what you call it here? DUI? All right. You don't get DUIs, right? Sounds funny now that I hear it. I haven't said that in a while. He said to me, "You'll do it again." Hell no, I won't. I'll never drink and drive again. No, fuck that. So I only did cocaine, PCP, and marijuana before I drove. I didn't drink anymore, but I did get sober 10 months later anyway. I was a miserable kid. Can anybody relate? Show of hands? Anybody? I was a miserable little fucker. And I made sure you knew I was miserable because I made you miserable. So you're glad I'm sober. You really are. To have me in society today on the trajectory I was heading, well, I'd probably be dead. Or you wouldn't see me because I'd be a vegetable somewhere. But I was a miserable kid. I remember that at my brother's wedding, I was 6 years old. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, all right? So my oldest brother's 15 years older than me. So I'm 6 years old at his wedding, and it was an open bar, and so I was getting these drinks. I didn't know what they were. They were Shirley Temples, I found out later, but I was acting silly, acting drunk. I was all sugared up, and then I crashed, and I passed out under a table, just like I would do later in life, drinking. And I kind of felt a little release from that. My inhibitions fell away so that, you all right? All right. My inhibitions fell away, and I came to know that release again when I was 10 years old, and I got really drunk for my first time. I got fucked up. And from then on, that was the goal whenever I drank. You know, okay, I'll just say we shot for oblivion at every chance we got. I had alcohol poisoning for 5 days. I was in bed for 5 days. And I was 10 years old. So the open bar at the wedding I was at, my next door neighbor's wedding, they actually served me what do you have, kid? I said, I'll have a screwdriver. Because I remembered something like Humphrey Bogart ordering in the movies I watched with my father, you know. And so I got a screwdriver, and then I got another, and I got another. But after the first one, first sip I took, I was like, drinking it like it's soda, right? Big mouthful. That's awesome! Immediately I felt the effect, the warming, the tingling throughout my body, and I ran to my friends like, hey, I found a solution in life, but I said, you got to try this. And they're like, no, I'm not going to try that. What is it, alcohol? No, I'm not going to drink that. And one kid sipped it, and that's disgusting. I was like, well, whatever. So I didn't see them the rest of the wedding, but I drank. I found the solution that day. And mind you, that day after my mother dragged me away, puking my guts out. And I was in bed for 5 days after that. On day 6, when she said, you got to go to school, that's it, you're done. Go to school. That was a Saturday. I missed 3 days of school, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I had to go to school. And I was thinking, you know what? That wasn't that bad. That wasn't that bad. I already had this fucked up thinking. And it translated to my alcoholism immediately. So I went about the next few years experimenting. I experimented with marijuana, cocaine, LSD, PCP, psilocybin. I did it for 10 years. I wanted to be thorough, so I was experimenting throughout this time. And there came a point where after my arrest, I was at a party, I was going to meetings, I had to go to a meeting the next day, and I'm at a kegger, because that's where you go when you have to go to AA, you go to a kegger first, right? And there were 3 kegs of beer there, and all my friends were there, and hey, Mark, have a beer. I'm like, no, I got to go to that A&A tomorrow. And, I'll smoke a joint. I'm like, nah, I don't think you could do that in AA. He said, well, do a line. I said, okay. And so I did a couple lines. Said, oh, shit. You know, I had a little bit of AA swirling around in my head, and now it was sped up 100 times. So I'm doing 100 miles an hour in my head about this AA shit that I've been hearing, and I freaked out and I left the party. That was my last, I'll say my last event. I didn't really get high. I got really paranoid, though. I didn't drink or smoke, but I got really paranoid on a couple lines of coke. And that was a very uneventful high. It was, you know, a lot of people go out with a big bang. I didn't have that. I had like maybe a little, one of those crackers you throw on the little firecracker thing. You throw it on the ground with the rocks in it, and it goes. That's what I had. No big bang. It was inconsequential. Well, it wasn't inconsequential. It was a big help for me to figure out my priorities. So I went to the meeting the next day, and I raised my hand, and it wasn't because I wanted to share and, you know, impart some wisdom on people, because I had a lot of wisdom, mind you. I really did. I thought so. But the girl who was sharing, we got drunk at a party, and she climbed a tree and passed out up in the tree, and I had to climb the tree and let her down from the tree, and then I think we wheeled her out to a wheelbarrow. She was in a wheelbarrow. We wheeled her out to the front yard and called her mother to come pick her up. And she thought we betrayed her, and I'm thinking, with all these people in the room, they must know she's talking about me, because, you know, I'm all important. And, well, I raised my hand, and the only words that came out of my mouth, I'm Mark, I'm an alcoholic, and I can't stop drinking. And I cried. I fucking bawled. I was going to set the record straight. I was going to say, hell no, that's not what happened. It was blah, blah. None of that happened. I bawled for 45 minutes. I've told this in some meetings where some of you have heard it, but the guy sitting next to me was like, oh man, that's good, you know, let it out. That's really good. It feels good to let it out, you know. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, that's good. All right, enough, stop, you know. Within like 5 minutes this happened. Oh, I can't stop. I couldn't stop crying. But that night, after the meeting, I started smoking cigarettes again and coffee. I'd given them up a little while earlier because that was my real problem. Cigarettes and coffee were my issue, and I was taking up physical exercise again. But I started smoking again and drinking coffee that night. We went to the big meeting right after that. That was our beginner meeting. In New York, they were called beginner meetings. And we went to the big meeting after that, which was a big book study. And before the meeting started, there were some people talking in the back of the room, some of the guys I was talking with after the meeting prior. And I gave one guy advice. And somebody turned to me and said, have you even worked the steps? I'm like, what's that? And he said, it's right up there on the wall. It's right up there on the wall. I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the front of the room. I sat down. I read them all. I was like, okay. I went back to them and I said, I'm done. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to laugh at that, but I said, I'm done. And the guy's like, what are you done with? I said, well, I just read the steps. He said, no, that's not how it goes, man. You gotta work the steps. You know, do you have a sponsor? What's that? You have a big book? What's that? You got a 12-12? What's that? I didn't know shit. So I got all of that stuff squared away that night. And I have to tell you that I have been a grateful alcoholic. Not grateful to be an alcoholic exactly, but that I am alcoholic, I'm grateful that I am because I have Alcoholics Anonymous. And Alcoholics Anonymous has given me an incredible life. So that's what happened when I got sober. From there, I did all kinds of things. And so imagine over 34 years, the amount of stuff that you can do when you have ADHD like I do. I started a lot of stuff, and I finished some of it. But I recognized that I was full of shit, and I like talking about myself in front of people. I thought maybe I should be an actor, right? So I went to the city, and I started taking lessons in New York. I grew up on Long Island. It's a suburb, in a suburb outside the city. It's not in the city. And so I had to take a train into the city. And I was taking these acting lessons, and I sucked. I sucked. Oh, it's horrible. It's not like speaking in an AA meeting. I could stand up here and I could talk all day about me. I am my favorite topic. So all day, no issue. But I sucked as an actor. That didn't stop me. I moved to Hollywood. I'm going to make it big. I am. And I impressed a couple talent agents, and I was represented, and I got some gigs. I did some small parts in TV shows and some movies, and I danced. I got hired for a country western movie one time. It turned out they flipped I showed up in country western attire, and now I was going to be dancing for a nightclub. Like, what the? Okay, so I just changed it up, and mind you, dancing, I only started sober, because the shit I did when I was drunk was not dancing. I was stomping my feet and stumbling and drooling, kind of. That's the way I danced. But I learned how to dance and have a lot of fun at the nightclubs in New York. But I sucked at all of that. I enjoyed it for a little while, but at a certain point, 4 years sober, I never thought I would ever have kids, mind you. I felt this kind of paternal instinct. I wanted children. I don't know where the hell that came from. It was like out of left field. But I got active in my church, and I think being around that element, it's a family environment, I really craved having kids for some reason. I didn't get it. But I did get it, actually, because I met a woman I thought would be good to be the mother of my children. We got married. We had children. And we raised them. It was a miserable fucking marriage, but I loved my daughters. So we were married for 23 years by the time I left her 6 years ago. Our daughters were 19 and 21. And I tell you, I still kind of have like this PTSD about that shit. And I'm going to be going to a counselor. I was talking with one of my sponsees about that, who had that issue prior, and he went to a counselor for it. My sponsor in San Diego, he had a divorce, and he went to a counselor for a while after that too. Because I have these ridiculous responses to things in my life. Like, fuck that, I don't want to get involved with anyone. That's not really human. All right? That's not the right way to go about things. Neither is jumping in bed right away, which I did for a little while after the divorce. Well, after I left her. And, you know, you want to find out? Fuck around. And I mean, really, if you're new, like we did when I was new, we did a lot of fucking around, and we all found out. Truly, your character defects come out when you're in a relationship and you don't know how to live life yet. You know? So I experienced a lot of that shit. With that family, I got a job because I couldn't be an actor anymore. I was working a job to be like, you know, a normal person. And so I stopped with the dream of acting, which is all fucking pomp and glory anyway. It was just bullshit. I just wanted to be famous and see me, see how cool I am, how important I am. That's all that was. And I wanted to make money easily. I know. Actors made a lot of money easily. I was a starving actor, by the way, because like I said, I sucked. So I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I was working pretty steadily. So gave that up, went to work. If I can't be an actor, I'll be a cop. So I worked toward that, and I got into law enforcement, and that really started for me in 96, yeah. 1996. And I just retired from the state of California on December 30th of 2023. So I've been retired for a little over a year. But I had this great career. did lots of really cool stuff. I mean, lots of really cool stuff. My family knew that I was going to be in prison someday. They just didn't think it was going to be in a uniform, right? So here I am. I'm in a prison, and we have these riots jumping off all the time. And I'm like, fuck yeah, fucking riots, love it. You know, we got these aluminum batons and guns and all kinds of lethal, non-lethal weapons going off all around us, and we're in these riots. It was a fucking blast. I'm an alcoholic. If I do anything, I'm going to do it to an extreme. Absolutely. And then I got into the street side of law enforcement, where I learned different things about prison and gang culture. I really did, and I learned how there's no real separation between them and me. It was just, I got caught. They got caught. I didn't get caught. They got caught. I should have gotten caught. Some of the shit I was doing in New York, I should have gone to prison for, absolutely. So I like to say that I was an outlaw before I became the law. Because I did a lot of crazy shit. And when I got to California, I'm like, people are going to prison for that? That was like a Friday night for us, you know? Get into these fights, the cops would come along with their flashlights and hit us over the head. Get out of here, you punks. And we'd run away, we'd scatter like cockroaches with the light coming on, you know? That's it. They didn't want to arrest anybody. They wanted to probably shake somebody down for some money or drugs or something. So I was very lucky in that regard to have escaped that, because I've really lived a great life. I was very active in Alcoholics Anonymous when I got sober, and for a bunch of years. When I am so fucking thirsty. Hold on a second. Okay, those tacos were salty. Holy crap. I was very active in fellowship, going to meetings, not so active in service anymore, because, you know, we were going dancing. I was dancing like 5 and 6 nights a week at the nightclubs in New York. So I wasn't really active in service. And at 3 years, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was miserable. I was really miserable. And I had a gun, and if anyone's familiar with a Beretta 92 FS, it has a safety on the side. It's a safety decocker. And I had that in my mouth, and I was pulling the trigger. That thing's not going to fucking shoot. I was praying to God, yeah, God, please remove the safety one of these squeezes. It's not going to happen. That's not the way my God works anyway. And so I was at another jumping off point. Different from the one when I got sober, but this one even more desperate, because I didn't want to drink. I had a taste of the good life that came from Alcoholics Anonymous, because it works if you work it. And I stopped working it, and I was resting on my laurels, and I was at another jumping off point. I got a new sponsor, because I had to, this is 93. I had to call my sponsor in New York, long distance. That was 15 cents a minute. Holy shit, that's expensive. 93, 15 cents a minute was a lot of money. My phone bill could go from $11 to $25. So he told me, hey, you should probably get a sponsor out there, somebody who you can see at meetings, which I agree with, absolutely. So I got a new sponsor, and he brought me through the steps. And he saw my desperation. He happened to be a Hollywood director, and he used this against me. He knew exactly what I was after when I asked him to be my sponsor. He was a director. He was going to further my agenda. Ulterior motives galore, yeah. So he got me to work the steps, and holy shit, what a profound experience. When we did it with the big book, the 12 and 12, Dr. Bob, the Good Old Timers, As Bill Sees It, One Day at a Time, Living Sober, Came to Believe. I think that's it. Those are the books we did it with. And each day I would read something, and then I'd write about it. And he had specific questions that I had to answer in writing. If I didn't do it, he was going to drop me. So I'm like, fuck that. No, I really need this. And I did that. It was a 111 reading, writing assignment format for the steps. Before I was done, I was back on track. Things were good. Even though things were shit, my outlook had changed. And I'll relate that to more recent experiences as well. But he had this idea that if you're not sponsoring somebody, you need to sponsor somebody. So, you see a newcomer at a meeting, you go up to him, you have a sponsor? No, I'm it. And I tried it a couple of times. It felt so disingenuous that it didn't work for me. It wasn't me. I'm not like that. I can't tell you I'm your sponsor. Absolutely, I will not. Even if you're beating around the bush, I will not say, all right, I'll sponsor you. No, you got to fucking ask. That's the way that works. And so when I left my wife, I was at another jumping off point. And this time I was, COVID had just hit. So I was separated from my meetings, from everybody I considered my family outside my family. I was so isolated. And the Hollywood Squares thing did not fucking work. Just didn't work for me. That Zoom was horrible. I'd have to do like 5 meetings on Zoom to feel like I got a meeting under my belt for the day. And I was living in my truck camper. That's like a shell on the back of a pickup truck. I did that for a couple of years, until I moved here, actually. And if I was going to be out, which I was anyway, because I was living in my vehicle, might as well go to a meeting. So I went to a lot of meetings these last few years, like 10 to 12 meetings a week. And something happened again. I got it again. I got it. I had it to give away, and some people recognized it. So they asked me to be their sponsor, and I was able to give it away again. And what a great thing. I developed a STEPS workshop, a format based on the original format that my sponsor brought me through in 93. And I created this 12-week format for this STEPS workshop. And on because I had a few sponsees, they were entering the steps at the same time. I'm like, you know what, let's do it together. You know what, let's do a workshop. You know what, other people can come. And so other people came too. And I said to myself, I should work these steps. If they're doing it, I'm not going to just stand there, twiddle my thumbs. I might as well do the steps again myself. So I did. That was my first time working the steps in 30 years. That was right around my 33rd anniversary, a year and a half ago. And so I had my ex-wife on there, and I did some work with my sponsor. There's a lot to be said for that. Doing the work, even if something isn't resolved, there's a lot to be said for doing the work related to it while it's happening. Because it was at that point that shit changed for me again. That no matter what was going on, I didn't have a penny to my name because I was supporting a full household, and being homeless on my own as I was, it was kind of expensive. Supporting the household, not living there, and having these other expenses, it took a toll on me. But I was happier than ever. I seriously, at that point, I was happier than ever, because I had this spiritual rearrangement that my will finally aligned with what I believe God's will is for me. And this is a big part of the program. I mean, I could force my way into something. No matter how much I try, if it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. And I try to force myself away from something happening. If that something is meant to be, it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do to change that. So, we hear about living life on life's terms. Is there anybody here not living life on life's terms? We're all doing it. Yeah. But do we accept it? Do we accept life on life's terms? You see, that's the difference. For us, accepting life on life's terms is the difference between fighting it and surrendering to it. Surrender is a big deal in Alcoholics Anonymous, beginning with putting down the drink and surrendering to Alcoholics Anonymous. I think I talked about this last night. I shared last night. I might have said something about... I might have shared something about that, so skip it. Surrender is all important. And the way I surrendered to Alcoholics Anonymous when I got so... Okay, I'll share it. I can't avoid it with this. That I believed people were truly happy in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is something I picked up on. And I believed that, finally I believed that it could work for me. You see, I didn't believe I could ever be happy. I didn't know what happiness was. I knew moments, kind of surreal. I knew manic episodes, kind of, where I'm so elated that life is okay for the moment, but then crash and I'm a fucking miserable kid again. So I knew that, but I didn't know that I could truly be happy. And when I saw this working for others, I had this spark of hope. I felt this hope inside that I could actually be happy. And so I turned my life and my will over to the care of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was my initial approach at dealing with a higher power, AA. I have since developed a relationship with a higher power that I can do business with. That's very important. And we have done business for a very long time. Asked me to describe my higher power, and I can't. I gave up trying to define the undefinable. I gave up trying to put my infinite God into a finite explanation that I could wrap my head around. If I could wrap my head around an understanding of my higher power, that higher power is not a higher power. It's just another power. So I really couldn't tell you. I could tell you things that I believe about my higher power. All loving, not vengeful, not devious. My higher power does not cause people to die so that they could go to heaven for another purpose. No, my higher power gives us free will, the option to choose what we want to do or not. And I believe that when a little kid gets struck down by a drunk driver, it's because of that drunk driver's free will that the kid was taken. Is it God's will? I don't know, but I don't think God planned for somebody to die in that case. Disease, problems in health and life, I think that's all a matter of my choices. Probably only have a few minutes left. What time do you want to?
5 after. So you've got. You've got 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want a soapbox, so I have to keep this to my experience. I believe that everything, I make my own problems, okay? So I can suffer from my decisions, or I could get out of my own way and let God do his work in my life and things turn out great. I absolutely believe that selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of all my problems today. It really is. If I'm disturbed, and I like to bring the spiritual axiom into this, the spiritual axiom can be found in the 12 and 12 in the 10th step. The spiritual axiom is about if something happens and I'm bothered, the problem is with me. Okay. So if I'm disturbed by something, I'm off. And if I'm off, I'm not going to be in God's will. I'm not going to be God-centered. I might know what right and wrong is, but I'm probably not going to choose what I believe is right because I'm in self. The big deal for me is getting out of self. And it was a little bit of a struggle for me when I moved here a few months back, that all but one of my sponsees got another sponsor down in San Diego. And I only started sponsoring somebody else here a few weeks or a month ago. And so I'm back working the steps with somebody. And that's, what a relief, you know? I don't want to belabor how great I am for helping other alcoholics. It's true, I am. But it's not necessarily because I want to do it. Actually, it's because I need to do it. And knowing that I need to do it and the freedom and the experience that comes from it, I want to do it. Right? So there's this, is it really selfless if I know I'm going to feel better about myself from helping somebody to work the steps? And I know that's going to be my reward. I know I'm going to feel better. So is it truly selfless? What the hell is selfless? Selfless is doing something without any expectation for reward or payment. And so if I know there's going to be something on the other end of it, am I truly selfless? No. No, but I can at least practice selflessness the same way I can practice humility. Humility is so elusive. It's one of those things like, oh, that was really good of me. And oh, fuck, I just lost it. You know? That's humility. The moment you think you got it, you just lost it. So I try to practice these things. These are spiritual principles I like to carry into all my affairs. I do want to also talk about some of my observations over the years with people going out and coming back and going out and coming back. And, you know, my views have changed a lot in recent years, probably the last 5 or 10 years. I would really try to dive deep with somebody as to why they went out. Why'd you go out? What do you think the reasons were you went out? Oh, I stopped going to meetings. Wow. Yeah, but was that it, or was it something before that? Oh, you're right. Yeah. No, I just didn't really like meetings. So I stopped going. All right, but maybe it was something before that, because really, you just didn't really like the meetings, but you know the solution's here, so you just stopped coming? No, really, I think I had a resentment against AA because I wanted to drink and I couldn't drink. And, you know, all these answers tend to come out when you get into it with somebody to go deep into the reason why they relapsed. There are a lot of people who love Alcoholics Anonymous. They love the life that's here. And that doesn't mean you can't still resent it at the same time. The same way you can love a spouse and resent them at the same time. I know this. I know this one. And so talking with people to get those understandings has been beneficial to me to know what route not to go down. When somebody goes out and they come back, it's not a pleasure. I get this vicarious boost from their poor choices, I'll say. I don't know about you. I don't make mistakes very often, all right? If I'm driving somewhere and I miss a street I was supposed to turn on, damn it, that to me is a mistake. If I go to the hardware store and I want to get a certain nut and bolt combination, and I reach in the tray and I pull them out and I think I got the right thing and I get out, that's a mistake if they don't match. That's a mistake. I didn't check it. But most of the time, I make bad decisions. I believe it's bad decisions that we make when we go out. These are, and it comes from what? A spiritual sickness. Ultimately, it boils down to a spiritual sickness. I may be sober today, and I may have a daily reprieve based on the contingency of my spiritual program. The maintenance of my spiritual program is super important. If I fail to enlarge my spiritual life, I might stay sober, but I'm going to be miserable, just like I was as a little kid. And knowing that the solution here is powerful enough to allow me to be happy, that I just need to make better decisions. And I only make better decisions when I get out of self, when I check in with my higher power. And there's the importance of prayer and meditation and turning it over. I need to pray and meditate on a daily basis to find out what it is I'm supposed to do for that day. I'll tell you, I know 100% of the time, across the board, 100% of the time, what God's will is for me after it's happened. I know that when shit goes well, oh, that was God's will. When it's all messed up, it's horrible, I'm like, fuck, that was my will. That was Mark's will. That sucks, you know? But I need to do stupid shit every now and then to figure out exactly what I need to do, just to remind me. I already know. I already know what the right thing is to do on just about everything I do. But sometimes I'll make a choice based on self to do something else, and I'll suffer consequences. There are consequences for everything in life. I'd say that generally most of the consequences for things in life are good. They're called rewards. We suffer good consequences doing something good. That's a big deal. But every now and then, when I just do something based on self, living in self-will, taking my will back, thinking I got it for the moment, you know, this is all right, you know, that defect of character is helping me at the moment, you know, I'm going to use this. No, then things don't really turn out very well. So I like to talk also about working the steps in reverse. And if I'm stopping service work, if I when I'm called to speak, because I asked to speak in the first place, and I'm called to speak, and I say, nah, you know what, I'm not going tonight. No, I'm not going that night. Nah, I don't want to do it. That's absolutely based on self. I'm not being of service as I intended to be. And if I'm not willing to sponsor people, help guide people through the steps, share my experience, strength, and hope, and frankly, be of service in other ways in Alcoholics Anonymous. Even sharing at a meeting is a big way to be of service. Because you might say something that somebody just walking in the door needs to hear. That might set them on the right path. And so, service is important. And if I stop being of service, I'm going to get into my head. I'm probably going to start thinking, you know what, I don't have to do all this other stuff. I don't have to be so vigilant at my program. And I might stop praying and meditating. And then I'm going to stop checking myself, you know. I'm going to stop working a 10-step. Stop checking myself. I'm going to stop apologizing. I might say I'm sorry a lot, but I'm going to stop really apologizing, making amends for shit I do wrong. There's a difference between saying I'm sorry, and, oh, you know what, I truly apologize for that. I was wrong. It's a big difference. One is a state of being sorry, and the other is an apology. You know, followed by a change in behavior, which is the amends. And then I'm probably going to take my character defects back, because I'm going to see how they can start to work for me again. And then I'm probably going to take my will back on top of it, because I'm using these character defects now. Now it's becoming my will again. And then I'm probably going to start slipping into insanity, because taking everything back is going to let me think that, or I'm probably already thinking it, that I'm gonna manage it, like with all my defects and self-will. I'm not gonna turn my will over. I don't need God for that, you know. And then I'm gonna be restored to insanity. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be restored to insanity. I'm going to make a lot of bad decisions, and with a sober head, I'm going to make that decision to drink. Not a sober mind, but a sober head. The difference is between making sober decisions based on what we've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous and making decisions based on self. So again, I return to that idea that all my problems are based on my selfishness, self-centeredness. Now, what we're taught is that it relates to self-centered fear. generally the fear that I'm going to lose something I already have, or I'm not going to get something I selfishly demand. Those two right there. That's where I get into my character defects again. Now, I could be working a great program in a lot of other ways, but I have to be hyper vigilant about my sobriety. It is contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual program. And without enlarging my spiritual program, I'm going to drink again. This is a fear of mine. So don't think, oh no, fear and faith can't exist in the same place at the same time. Well, actually they can. And my experience is that when I'm in fear, if I have faith, that'll see me through it. That's like the light in the tunnel showing me the way. Faith is knowing everything's going to be okay regardless. I might not get what I want, but I'm going to be okay. And so I told you about my biggest problems when I started. Yeah, I think my biggest problem now is this freaking cotton mouth I have from all this talking and those salty tacos I had before the meeting. All right, damn it. I feel like my lips are stuck together. This is not a problem. Come on, right? This is not a problem. Who gives a shit? But I have such a great life. I moved here a few months ago. I got a nice place. I have some potential for work. You know, things are really cool. I get to snowboard whenever I want. You know? In San Diego, we would say, that's rad. And that's a rad life. But after 17 years in San Diego and my ex-wife still living there, I figured, Utah's looking really good. And I'd planned on coming here for a few years. The promises of the program have nothing to do, literally, with the material. But the material is a good consequence of living the principles of the program. Shit just happens. I mean, you know, it takes a little tenacity and willingness to do what it takes to get places. But aside from that, anything is possible. I like to say that the world is our oyster, just waiting to be shucked. That I could do whatever I want in life, within reason. I'm not going to go be a hitman for the mafia. Although I wanted to be when I was a kid, because that was cool, you know? I was the only blonde-haired Italian boy in my neighborhood, by the way. Anything is possible in Alcoholics Anonymous. And all the negative possibilities can happen if I pick up a drink. Knowing what reward there is for living a good, sober life is enough to keep me on the right path. I know, my time is ending, but I have one quick story to share. Nathan didn't give me the signal. He wanted to hear my story about when I was in Los Angeles. I was fairly new in L.A., and here I was, this New Yorker wearing a black leather jacket, black shirt, black pants, black cowboy boots with a black overcoat. And I'm walking to a meeting in South Central LA. And his brother jumps up in front of me. He's like, hey, where you from? I was like, oh, I'm from New York. He said, no, where you from? I was like, Long Island. You know, I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm from Long Island. No, what are you doing here, man? I said, I'm going to a meeting at the church down the street. A meeting? Yeah, AA. He's like, aren't you scared? I said, no, I'm walking with the Lord. Why would I be scared? He said, oh, all right, well, be careful. It's dangerous out here. That's why I walk past this guy shit. I just, if that shit happened after I carried a gun and a badge, it might have been a different outcome. But ignorance is bliss. And absolutely walking with the armor from my higher power enables me to go places where I wouldn't normally be able to go if I'm not going there for selfish reasons. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Mark.